and welcome to the Debrief. This is your weekly catch-up of everything happening in public policy and politics. I'm Donna King. I'm editor-in-chief of the Carolina Journal. Thanks for joining us this week on the couches. We have from the John Locke Foundation, Dr. Andy Jackson is going to be filling us in on everything we can expect from November's elections, and of course, Mitch Kokai. From the Carolina Journal, we have Deputy Editor Jeff Moore and CJ reporter Brianna Kramer. All right, so little less than a week ago, former President Donald Trump survives an assassination attempt, and then tonight, Thursday, he closes out the Republican National Convention. It is so much can happen in a week. It is amazing. Right now, we have some new polling numbers coming out. Mitch, tell me what you think. Do you think that this shift, what we've seen over the last week in popularity for Trump, is this a headwind that will stay with him? What are you seeing?
Well, it's certainly a headwind that he's enjoying right now. How
Sure.
long that lasts remains to be seen, because there is still a lot of time between now and November. I think it was the major event of the campaign, the fact that you see the first assassination attempt against a presidential candidate in years, and it was unsuccessful. And not only was it unsuccessful, but Donald Trump, within seconds of being shot in the ear, was waving his arm and saying he wasn't going to quit, which I think really roused his base. Also got people who hadn't been focusing as much on the campaign to start thinking about it.
Sure.
It also, in some respects, took a little bit of attention away from Joe Biden, because a lot of the recent phenomenon in this particular race has been Joe Biden and whether he's going to be competent not only to serve another 4 years, but even to serve the rest of this year and to be on the ticket. So I think that that event, along with this week's Republican National Convention, has really kind of thrown this back into the public spotlight.
Sure. Okay, there's a poll out just this morning, an Emerson poll, saying that Donald Trump has about 96% of registered voters say they're going to support Trump.
46.
Sorry, not 96. What in the world? 46 said that they were going to, registered voters say they support Trump, compared to 42 for Biden. 12% still saying they're undecided. Andy, tell me what your thoughts are on this. Does this number surprise you, or did you see this trend coming even before?
Well, it's been fairly consistent. One thing that's been interesting is that if you go back to 16, you go back to 20, Trump had been consistently behind by a lot in a lot of these polls. Now, he did lose the popular vote in both of those elections, but the gap was much smaller than the polling indicated. So this is really a long-term reversal of those past trends. There was a time up until, I think, early spring where Biden was kind of neck and neck, but Trump has been kind of slowly coming out ahead. Then you have the events of this week, where you're probably going to see a little bit of delay. There's usually about a week or so before you start seeing a lot of movement in the polls. So you might see Trump opening up the kind of leads that Clinton and Biden had against him in prior elections, like maybe a 7 or an 8%. Now, that's probably not going to last, but we're about to go into the Olympics. We're about to go into vacation season. So it's going to take a while for Democrats, the Biden campaign, to claw that back. We're going to see what happens when Democrats have their convention. Usually they'll get their own bump, but he's going to be starting with a pretty substantial deficit in public support compared to Trump. And the way that folks have kind of pulled off into their camps, it's really harder to claw that back. This isn't, say, like the 92 election where Dukakis was up by double digits and then George Herbert Walker Bush was able to come back and win convincingly. It's a lot harder to make big moves in the polls these days.
Sure. Okay, so here's where the numbers stand right now on this July 18th. Right now in North Carolina, Trump has a 7-point lead. In Arizona, a 7-point lead. In Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Nevada, he's leading by 5 points. And in Georgia, by 6 points. This really seems like a substantial trend, and then with the Olympics coming up, there may be not much chance to claw that back for a while. But then, of course, Biden administration, there's been reports out this week that he's saying it's going to take God Almighty for Biden to step back and let somebody else take the lead. What do you think the chances are of that?
Well, the thing about Biden is, and this isn't just him, I mean, you don't become a presidential nominee without being the kind of person that wakes up every morning, looks in the mirror and said, yes, I should be the leader of the free world. And he has thought that for the better part of 4 or 5 decades. Yeah. I mean, he's been running for a while for president. And for him to break character, as it were, I think that would be highly uncharacteristic of Biden or really anybody who is in that position. I think it would really take a kind of come to Jesus moment. And I don't know who can really deliver. I mean, Nancy Pelosi apparently has tried to deliver that message. Other people have. And I don't know if they can't do it, I don't know who can. I think Biden is really determined to stay into it. So it's going to take some kind of intervention if they're going to keep him out.
Sure.
But this is the real wild card in the rest of this race is I think, and I would love to hear disagreement, but I think if it does end up being Trump and Biden, Trump's getting such a lead now that it would be really hard for Biden to come back. But Democrats can make a change. And if they do make a change and make it Kamala Harris or someone else we haven't even seen yet, that throws a whole nother monkey wrench into this situation that we really can't guess about now.
When have they run out of track for that? I mean, it seems like that would have been the primary, but I'm hearing now they could do it all the way up into the convention?
Yeah, I mean, the convention is where you actually formally nominate the person. All of the primary stuff is, while important, sort of the preliminary to that. You don't actually become the official candidate until the people go to the convention and you have to, I give our 27 delegates to blah, blah, blah. That's when that happens.
Sure.
Now, the Democrats have been talking about doing that virtually rather than having it being done on the convention floor, which would be a little bit different. But until that happens, they don't really have officially a candidate, even though everyone expects it's Biden unless he drops out.
Sure, sure. So if we're talking about the RNC, so their convention is coming up in August. That's their kind of drop deadline. They got to have something on the table. The RNC, the Republican National Convention, has been this week. You've been on the other side of that curtain. You know what that's like. Tell me what you thought about what you saw unfold. I thought Mark Robinson did great. Maybe he was a little more toned down than I expected. What did you think?
Yeah, well, I thought North Carolina overall has a very big presence at the convention in Milwaukee. Obviously, the chairman of the Republican Party, Michael Whatley, the former NCGOP chairman.
Right.
But even in just the TV coverage, I'm noticing a lot of North Carolina faces in the coverage. But this is a huge undertaking. We had an article on Carolina Journal last week about when they kick it off, what this event is really like. And Chairman Whatley was telling me that it's as many moving parts as a Super Bowl or like it's hosting the World Series like 4 nights in a row.
Right.
And after what happened last Saturday, there was a lot of questions about just the entire, everyone kind of paused because of the potential of what could have happened Saturday. It kind of set everybody back a little bit. But when they kicked it off, I think that what they found is that kind of traumatic what-if experience on Saturday brought everybody back together to where the mood seems, I mean, unity is in high supply in Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention. All of their speakers are pretty engaged and engaging with the crowds there, and obviously it's full of the activists and the most active people in politics. But as far as the logistics and operations of the convention, it's a huge endeavor. But so far, it seems like they've been having a good time and a helpful time for their ambitions in November. And we'll see tonight with Trump coming out on stage, his first public speech since Saturday, what that reception is like. I imagine it's going to be pretty electric.
Sure, sure. So what about security for something like that? It had to have been unbelievable going into this.
Yeah, so there are probably multiple different outfits and layers of security from just the local police and the building and institution itself and the security that they have, and then Secret Service. And they said that there weren't many changes to the Secret Service plan. I think they asked after Saturday, what about the convention? Are you guys making it more robust now? Well, with the convention itself and all the attention, I think they probably had the staffing pretty robust already. So I think that there were no real changes. But you better believe that no one's even bringing nail clippers through anything there. So it's probably very tight and locked down. But if you're going to be around a crowd of people that would want to support and protect against any bad things happen, this might be the place you would want to be if you were being targeted like Donald Trump is.
Absolutely. So, of course, this week also announcing that J.D. Vance will be his running mate. Do you think that was a game time decision, given what happened last weekend?
Yeah, it seems very interesting because the different shortlist candidates to be VP, Rubio is in the mix, J.D. Vance in the mix, Doug Burgum was rumored to be there, Tim Scott. But that short list, they really did not know until the last minute. And so it makes you wonder if the decision wasn't made until the last minute. Maybe there was a feeling, kind of a gut feeling. Trump does a lot of things by his gut feeling, and he trusts his gut enormously.
Sure.
So I think after Saturday, you look at this pick, and it looks more of like a pick from a position of strength versus in 2016, picking Mike Pence, appealing to an evangelical vote, and maybe it's a different kind of motive there. This time, it seems like he picked someone that was more in line with some of his more unique thinking when you compare it to some traditional Republican platforms. And so it seems like a stronger pick for him. So that fist in the air and that fight, and all the momentum you have going in, and then he shows up and to announce the VP pick, J.D. Vance seems like a strength pick.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he does stray a little bit from some traditional conservative policy background or policy beliefs, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Not quite the true conservative.
Just like Trump in 2016 came through, and they're on the primary debate stages in South Carolina, and he pans the Iraq War as a disaster. And in 2016, that felt unusual.
Sure.
For a Republican candidate for president to be criticizing George W. Bush, a former Republican president, and things like that. But we've seen since that is kind of, the Trumpism is kind of around some of those odd positions that not typically lined up with what has been for the past 20 or 30 years. J.D. Vance shares a lot of that. It's a little bit squishy. It doesn't seem that J.D. Vance was pitching an ideology in his speech at the convention as much as he was pitching his life story as a candidate. And so it's kind of hard to pin him down on some things. There was a big emphasis on working together to find the right solutions and acknowledging that there might be disagreements in how we approach policy. So at least there was some awareness there that he might not be in line with all the different factions of the Republican Party.
Sure. And he's a young candidate. Brianna, I got to ask you, what do you think? Do you think having a young face on the ticket is going to make a difference for a younger voter?
Yeah, I think so. I think all voters kind of want to see younger people, especially, the two candidates right now, Biden and Trump.
Sure.
They're very, very old at this point to be continuing to be in politics. And then we see even in Congress, a lot of the senators and representatives, the average age is way up there for both houses. So I think it's something that people are changing their mindsets on and wanting younger people to get involved in politics and to actually understand some of these issues a little bit more being younger, maybe like technology issues and things like that, where a younger person might actually have a different approach and different understanding.
Sure. What struck you this week following the assassination attempt about the shift, the cultural mood shift? You're a really observant person. I'm always interested to see what you think.
I thought it was interesting how there was so much talk about Biden, the debate, his struggle at the debate a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
And it was just instantly a shift from, his whole team having to kind of combat all of the accusations and answering all these questions in the briefing room to instantly everybody's attention was to Trump and, the assassination attempt and what had occurred. And so, I think that helped the Biden team get, the attention off them and shift that to the Trump side. Yeah, so I think that was probably helpful for them. But I think it was like a shocking moment on a Saturday night for everybody to go, what just happened?
Right. Yeah, so, it still even now seems surreal. Let's talk about strategy. Okay, so now Trump's got a lead in North Carolina. State Board of Elections is being asked to add some more folks to the ballot. Tell me what your thoughts are and what's this process? Who have they added and what can we expect?
Well, they've got, if you want a new party in North Carolina, you have until June 1st, the election year, to submit a sufficient number of absentee ballots. The exact number is, this gave me a slightly under 14,000. And we had three parties that made that. We had the Constitution Party, which used to be on the ballot. They are considered a pretty hardcore conservative party. They got slightly over 14,000. Then we had the Justice for All Party, which is kind of the vehicle for Cornel West, a very progressive person and will attract progressive, presumably people that may otherwise vote Democratic. And then you had JFK Jr. Party, RFK Jr.'s party, We the People, and they made it, and they had like over 18,000 valid signatures submitted. And so they have a process. They submit, and then the counties have to validate the signatures, and so, okay, we have enough signatures, and then the state board certifies. But then for at least two of those parties, a roadblock came up where they said, well, we're not convinced that you really told people the purpose behind the party, the intent and purpose of this party. And so you kind of had, and this is an experience that's going back several years, because we've had the Green Party, another progressive party. They actually, the state board stopped them to the point where they wouldn't be able to get on the ballot. They had to sue to get on the ballot. Then no labels, a relative, supposedly middle of the road, had some problems, not as much as the Green Party. So you have this kind of continuum now with state board of elections actions over the last 3 years, where you have conservative party barely gets enough signatures in, but they sail in. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Sure.
Two moderate parties that probably would be pulling votes from both sides. They have a little bit more of a struggle, but they get in plenty of time to get on the ballot. And then you have the two progressive parties that would almost certainly have pulled more votes from Democrats than Republicans. And the state board takes actions on both that would keep them off the ballot. One party, the Greens, had to sue. Already I've heard that we, the people, are going to be suing to get ballot access. They
Justice
have.
for all, right?
Huh?
Justice for all.
Oh, sorry, Justice for All.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Justice for All. They're going to be suing. They have probably until about mid-August when ballots start getting printed. So this court case will probably have to get resolved very quickly. And so we see this pattern with the state board where groups that are presumably going to be hurting Democrats are given more scrutiny, partially because the Democratic Party, the Elias Law Group, they have actually gone through combing through those petitions, contacting people, trying to get them to get their names removed from the ballot. And so this added level of scrutiny gave the justification for the state board to keep those parties off the ballot.
And it's probably important to remind people our state board of elections is 5 members,
Right.
3 Democrats and 2 Republicans by law. The governor's party has to have a majority. Our General Assembly has tried to change that so there would be an even number of members from both parties, but Democrats have objected because they're the ones who have the advantage right now.
Sure, sure. Now, the idea that there may be a turnout problem for Democrats if they are just not happy with either candidate at the top of the ticket, is there an argument to be made? Bring them in, and they'll vote for Stein, and they may vote for Cornel West, but they'll hit those Democrat down ballot votes as well.
We've heard that, and we're getting to the point, and I've seen this. Some of the political market indicators are
Sure.
starting to remove North Carolina from the swing state list.
Oh, interesting.
Because we've had these consistent polls where Trump has been up 4, 5, 6, 7 percentage points, and now other states are a little more in play. The Republicans are talking about expanding the map. I don't know if they should be that confident,
Right.
but you're really looking more at like the Wisconsins, Pennsylvanias, Arizonas at this point. And so if that's going to happen in North Carolina, where the Biden campaign has to make a strategic decision in September, well, we've really got to shore up other states and start pulling resources out of North Carolina. If you're a down ballot Democrat, you would like to have this other source of potential votes. So it is
Right.
possible that there are people who would be so turned off, and there still are people that really hate Biden and hate Trump.
Sure.
That's a fairly substantial part of the electorate.
Right.
And so bringing somebody in that might encourage some of those folks who regularly vote but maybe are thinking about skipping this year could help some of the down ballot Democrats.
Yeah, very interesting. What are your thoughts about this?
I think any time you're expanding options, it's good just for the kind of the warm and fuzzies of
Sure.
the electorate to know that they actually have some options, because the most common refrain among people when you ask them about politics is like they're all the same, they have this uniparty term, or you can't trust any of them, and so they end up not voting and apathy creeps in. Well, the last 4 years or so has removed apathy from the equation, because
Sure.
you're almost forced to care about the things because they affect
Yeah.
you so much. So when you're adding options to a ballot, I think that's a good thing. It introduces more ideas and policy discussions when you have more kind of variation on the left or the right. You can actually talk about the nuances. The Constitution party is going to have a lot more like kind of hardcore conservative stances on things
Sure.
that a lot of Republicans would read and say, yeah, shouldn't we be doing that stuff? So,
Right.
and on the left, the same thing. The Justice for All party is going to have positions. Cornel West and that campaign is going to campaign for things that are going to invigorate Democrats and say, yes, Roy Cooper should be fighting harder for things like this. So I think it's a healthy development to be expanding ballots, giving more choices. I'm not sure it's going to have any real kind of impact on the big races we're going to be watching.
Sure.
It's pretty late in the day for that to make a huge impact, but I think overall for North Carolina's voters, it's a positive development.
Absolutely. Now, you've been covering the state legislature on this the whole time. Tell me what Speaker Moore, who's of course on the ballot as well as a Republican running for Congress, and Phil Berger are saying about this.
Yes, so after the Board of Elections decided to allow We the People to be on the ballot, or rather a political party, they both came out, both the leaders, and said, that we need a more fair state Board of Elections. So like you were saying, the governor is the one who determines in the end that it's going to be a Democrat-leaning state Board of Elections. So both of them are in favor of changing that up, and they're calling for changes to be made. But I do think it's interesting that the State Board of Elections decided this week to allow the party, We the People, as there's been growing attention on a national level. So we have, the U.S. Congress was asking for information about what's going on here.
In North Carolina?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, with them not allowing, the two parties onto the ballot. And so they're asking what's going on. They have the required amount of signatures, what's going on with the board. And then the state legislature also, I think they were going to be holding a hearing later this month on it. So there's this growing attention, and I think putting pressure on them, as well as an ad campaign that came out. They were going to put $200,000 into ads targeting those 3 Democratic board members.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and saying that they're helping the Biden campaign by not allowing his opponents on the ballot.
Oh, very
Probably
interesting.
worth
Yeah.
mentioning that that State Board of Elections meeting is scheduled next week, and only 3 people are scheduled to testify, including
Yes. Right,
Andy
right.
Jackson, talking about some of the issues involved in all of this.
Sure, Dr. Jackson, what do you anticipate coming from that meeting, and what are you expecting?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to telegraph what I'm saying.
Sure,
They
sure, of
have sent the
course.
written testimony in, but it's going to be me. It's going to be Karen Brinson Bell, the executive director of the State Board of Election, Alan Hirsch, who is the chair of the State Board of Elections. I fully expect that certainly Republican members are going to be coming after them hard about this dichotomy about how the parties were treated, the level of scrutiny. Now, in their defense, the board will say, well, we had this evidence that dropped in our lap because this was evidence presented by the Elias Law Group that was given to them that, things were not on the up and up. And if similar evidence had dropped in our lap about the Constitution Party, then maybe they would have had a similar level of scrutiny. This means that we basically have a system where the level of opposition or the power of the group that is opposing your attempt to become a party will be determinative about whether or not you're allowed to be recognized. Now, that's going to be a difficult system to kind of justify because we're having unequal treatment based on the power of the people that are opposing you. Now, I'm not willing to say Republicans are perfect in this matter. I think if there was a Republican majority on the board, maybe we would have seen greater scrutiny of the Constitution Party's attempt to get on the ballot.
Very interesting. All right, and the money. That's all comes down to money, right? Big donations rolling into North Carolina. Both major parties are really trying to flip this state, and a lot of Democrats. You've got a great story out on carolinajournal.com today about really breaking down some of those big money donations and where they're coming from. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so Q2 reports came in just a few days ago.
Okay.
And so we wanted to take a look at what's going on at the state level here in North Carolina. And we found out that Democrats raised $2.8 million in total for Q2, while Republicans raised $1.1 million.
Okay.
But we wanted to look kind of deeper into the individual contributions. So that's kind of going to let you know a little bit more about out-of-state funding versus in-state funding of individuals, so your ground-based voters here in North Carolina or out-of-state influences. So what we found is in-state, both parties are neck and neck. So Democrats received $195,000 from in-state, while the GOP got $193,000. So very similar from in-state donors. Then we looked at out-of-state and found that the GOP received $117,000. $100,000 from out-of-state individuals.
Okay.
Bringing money into the state. And then the Democrats received $800,000.
Wow.
So that's the majority of their contributions, individual contributions are coming from out of state into North Carolina politics. So 71% of the Democratic Party's funds are from the small group of mega donors, and then we
Okay.
looked at where are they coming from. 3 states, California, New York, and Washington State. So it was very interesting to see primarily 4 specific people
Really?
in these states, these 3 states, donated $700,000 to
So the big difference comes down to 4 people? Mm-hmm. Wow.
4 people donate
All
from
right.
out of state, blue states.
Okay.
Sent over to the North Carolina Democratic Party $700,000.
Who are the big money, deep pockets?
Definitely people connected to Warren Buffett,
Sure.
Berkshire Hathaway, and people who are hedge fund members giving extensively to the Democrat parties all over the country in different organizations.
Sure.
And then we also noticed Reid Hoffman was on the list. He's a Washington resident.
Okay.
And so he gave $3,200 in Q2.
Okay.
He's the co-founder of LinkedIn.
Okay.
And he's on the board of Microsoft. But he made headlines this week for saying Trump should have been made an actual martyr, responding, to the attempted assassination. So it was interesting to see that he's targeting North Carolina politics, not just in the quarter, but this full year in 2024, he has given just about $1 million, $970,000 to the Democrat causes in North Carolina.
Sure.
In 2024 alone. So
Very interesting.
There's a lot at play here with out-of-state money coming in, and it just shows how significant North Carolina is going to be in this election.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to wrap it up here, but first let's talk about what can we expect next week.
So next
Carolina
week,
Journal coverage.
I'm going to be focused on the Utilities Commission. They're having a hearing kick off Monday afternoon.
Okay.
There may be some changes to Duke Energy's carbon plan.
Oh.
We're catching some rumors that there are going to be some changes submitted. There's going to be a 2 or 3 week hearing, and the changes might include increased prices for residential and
wow.
industrial customers, ratepayers. So that's something we're going to be looking into. We'll write an article about it and tell you more about that then, and carry the hearing on CarolinaJournal.com.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.